name is Warren Krieger, and I am on the board of directors of the Lake Mills Aztalan Historical Society. We are now standing in downtown Aztalan in front of the Ashland Museum. The Ashland Museum was built in 1852 as a Baptist church, and this organization was established in 1941 for the sole purpose of preserving this building as the last remaining structure in Ashland. Ashland was a thriving community at one time. It had a blacksmith shop, a brickyard, a hotel. Unfortunately, the railroad bypassed Ashland and went to Lake Mills instead. Lake Mills thrived and Ashland died. So this is the last remaining structure from those days over 150 years ago, roughly. The Lake Mills Aztalan Historical Society was established in 1941 to preserve this building and other buildings from this area. In 1942, the Ashland Museum opened after they had preserved this building by putting on a new roof and installing new windows. In addition to preserving the church, the Society acquired several collections of ancient Indian artifacts from the Mississippian Indians who once lived in Aztalan between 800 and 1200 AD, as well as historical artifacts of the early pioneer times of Aztalan and Lake Mills. The museum site opened in 1942 and quickly grew into a historical village where additional structures were moved to the site from adjoining townships, including 3 log cabins dating between 1843 to 1867, a granary, a Moravian church constructed of logs, and a red brick one-room schoolhouse original to the site, which was built in 1917. All this is staged to represent the era from which they came. On the museum grounds, one can also view the Princess Mound, a unique burial mound of a young woman whom upon her interment was draped with strands containing thousands of shell beads, and is the northernmost mound in a series of small conical mounds that lay north and south from the museum site to our neighbor, Aztalan State Park. Ancient Indian artifacts on display within our museum include some of the aforementioned shell beads, Aztalan brick, which was used by the Aztalan people to construct their palisades, various arrow points and tools, copper pieces, pottery, and even a remnant of an original post from the iconic palisade. The museum has a wide array of historical artifacts special to the local history, including antique carpenter tools, some of which were donated by former Wisconsin State Supreme Court Judge Connor Hansen, who once lived in Lake Mills. Area photos of places in Aztalan and Lake Mills, including several homes and businesses of our early settlers, photos of memorable individuals from our past, early copies of local newspapers, clothing representing several eras of our history, musical instruments from our early city band members, maps and household items, most of which were once owned and used by Lake Mills and Aztalan people and donated by their families. Every year in July, the Society hosts its annual picnic, Aztalan Day, at the museum site. This originated in 1967. It gives visitors an opportunity to observe volunteers demonstrating historical crafts or trades, including wool spinning, lace making, blacksmithing, and carpentry. Music from various artists entertain visitors while they enjoy delicious food, including our signature homemade pies and ice cream. The museum site is located at the corners of County Trunk Highway Q and B in Aztalan, 2 miles east of Lake Mills. The site is open May 15th through the last weekend of September and is open on Memorial Day, July 4th, Labor Day, as well as during special events such as Halloween Harvest in October, where children and adults can trick-or-treat among our historic buildings. Normal hours are Thursday through Sunday, 12 noon to 4 o'clock. However, arrangements can be made for private visits from large groups or schools. Admission is $5 for adults, $3 for senior citizens and students. Children under 5 are free. Annual memberships are available for families at $15 and individuals for $10, giving members the benefits of free admission to scheduled events and the museum site during normal operation hours for the issued year, as well as the opportunity to serve as a member of the Society's Board of Directors in addition to supporting the Society in preserving and sharing local history. Individual lifetime memberships are also available with a donation of $100 or more. The Society is a 100% volunteer 501(c) nonprofit organization which does not receive funding from governmental sources but rather relies on the generosity of donors, proceeds from visitors, volunteers, and fundraising to maintain the historic structures and collections of the Society.
Well, first of all, people call me a historian, but I don't like that title. I'm an accumulator of data, and when I find stuff that I think is interesting, I want to share it with other people, so then I write an article on it. And I've written over 100 articles for the Lake Mills Leader since 1993, I guess. Strangely enough, I was born in London, Wisconsin. Not planned. My parents lived in Lake Mills, but they belonged to the church, Moravian Church in London, and they had gone overnight to my grandparents in London to be there for the next day's service, and I appeared overnight. But I grew up in Lake Mills. I graduated from high school here, and after I got my medical degree, I was practicing up in Stevens Point, and a doctor who knew me said, "Why don't you come down and join me, because I've got more business than I can handle." So I ended up back in Lake Mills practicing medicine. I joined the Friends of the Fargo Library, and the librarian said, "Why don't you do what they did way back in 1936, recording events going around Lake Mills?" And I had just gotten a video camera. So I said, okay, I'll see what I can do, and that's where it all started. And then I thought, well, this is sort of interesting. Why don't I create the founding of Lake Mills? And so I dug up a lot of old pictures and things like that, and I talked to a few people to narrate things into it who I thought had good voices for it. But as I say, as I started looking at previous written histories, I realized that they really had significant errors in them. Why, I don't know, and unfortunately, later people writing historical stories would go back to that particular incident. They would not analyze it, they would just recopy it and perpetuate it. And I thought, that's not good, because you get a whole slanted view of it and not a true view. So that's where and of course, then they started asking me to present talks to the Historical Society and the Women's Club and so forth. So I gave a few talks to it. And I like photography, and I probably have 1,000 35 millimeter slides of various kinds. One thing that it doesn't have anything to do with Lake Mills really, but I got fascinated with old barns, because as I was going around I could see them gradually falling down, and I thought, my gosh, all of a sudden they're going to be gone and we aren't going to have any record of them. So I started going around and photographing them. And one person said, well, I said that I don't find many round barns. And someone said, oh, there are a lot of them. And they gave me an article that had been done by some fellow at Carroll College. And so we spent about 3 years driving to different parts of Wisconsin and photographing remaining round barns. And I found, I think about 150 round barns in different parts of Wisconsin. It wasn't always easy, because the write-up of these barns, he had just written to different county seats and so forth, said, do you have any round barns in there? And they would give them a township. Well, a township's a mile square, and now how do you find them? So I would stop places. Now, of course, the rural mail carriers would know where they all were, but they were out on the road, so I couldn't talk to them. And I'd stop in the taverns. Oh, they knew all about it, but they couldn't agree where it was. They told me 5 different directions. Of course, there's some, when you have a road that says Round Barn Lane, you're pretty sure there's probably a round barn on the end of it. But and I started giving talks about barns too. But I come across things, and people periodically ask me to do a little research, and I enjoy the research part of it. It all started really when I was trying to make some videotapes of activities in Lake Mills, and when I looked at old histories, I ran across all sorts of misstatements, and I said, somebody's got to set the record straight. And so that's why I really got into it, to re-look up all these things and find out exactly what the actual facts were about it. So it just sort of something to keep me occupied in retirement, I guess. Well, I think it's important for people to realize what has happened in the past, because otherwise they're apt to repeat errors of the past. It's a learning experience. Say, we don't always know exactly what happened, and this, of course, is one reason why I've written articles too. A lot of people in Lake Mills didn't grow up here now, and help them get acquainted why certain things are in town or not in town and things like that.